Hi everyone, it's Grant Abbott speaking. How are you? And welcome to another session. In fact, this is the crown jewel of all our strategies, really. And it's so apt given the current state of play with the Commissioner's 4 draft tax rulings. In fact, 3 draft rulings and 1 taxpayer alert. In that taxpayer alert, the Commissioner notes that if distributions have been made to adult children, and for example, they've been set off against expenses which the parents have laid down for them when they were children, that in effect, that's potentially tax avoidance. And we're going to go into that a little bit later on. So that's created a huge amount of drama for the industry. And more importantly, it leads us to the importance of going about protecting your accounting practice or even your financial planning practice. We know these both ASIC is very gung-ho when it comes to taking away licenses or restricting licenses. And now we've got the Commissioner going on record saying that he'll refer tax agents to the Tax Practitioners Board. So that in effect can have quite a deleterious effect on anyone's business. So we need to protect, start with ourselves, do our own home, and then we go and move to our clients and have a look at the same sort of thing. Because particularly if we learn anything over the last couple of years, we have to prepare for the worst. And if we don't, and the worst happens, then we can be in absolute disastrous position. All of our assets, all of our business just going up in smoke. You may not be aware, but if the Commissioner hits you with a promoter penalty and you're running through a company, which many of you are, he's already threatened this in the draft tax rulings, there is a $5.5 million fine. So let me tell you again, there's a $5.5 million fine if you get caught being a promoter. And I'm not sure where you guys fitted that one, but that's a lot of brass. So we need to get in now and really start to protect. Anyway, the protector, we're going to go through that. I'll just go through some various issues. We'll work out what it means, what it looks like. So, and then what I'd suggest is if you want to ask any questions, feel free to do so. Okay, so here's some things coming up though. I just thought I'd give you a bit of a shout out for some elements. First off is I'm going to be building the Business Protector in the LightYear Docs platform, the new platform. If you haven't been acclimatized to that, then you really need to get in. It's so much more dynamic than the older platform. Currently working on a number of integrations. Obviously, the first one has been ASIC. We've then got XPM or Zero Practice Manager and also BGL coming up very shortly as well. In fact, we've just taken on FuseSign as well. So we're really moving on leaps and bounds. But we've got a big rollout to come down the track and a whole lot more documents to come. We're already up to around about 150 documents, and we're starting to build some really big packages, as you'll see over the next few months. One of those, of course, is the Business Protector, which consists of 2 documents put together, a transfer of property and then a lease or license back. But if you're on the old platform, you'll need to get your documents off there by the 25th of March 2022. The team, our development team, have built a special system to enable that to happen fairly easily. If you haven't done that, contact support. If you're on a new system, just simply log in and ask a question of support and they'll help you. 13th to the 15th of March, I'm going to, which is next week, I'll be speaking at the Gold Coast, the Change GPS conference. So it's going to be a really big, amazing conference for everyone. So we're going to have a lot of fun there. The 4th to 6th of April, we've got the Succession Asset Protection Estate Planning Advisor course. I know many of you have already done it. If your staff haven't done it, or you've got colleagues or friends who want to go down that track, please feel free to do so. For those of you who are SAPEPA members, founding members, or just ordinary members, we have got a fantastic half-day workshop coming up. It looks as though it was going to be in March, but we're just trying to get our family provisions lawyer. It looks as though it's going to be in April, which will be fantastic. You'll see there also that we've got down the bottom there, this little picture there, me in front of a whiteboard, my favourite place. May the 9th, I'm going to be bringing back my specialist SMSF advisor course. This is the one that more than 1,000 accountants and financial planners have been through. So you know well, I mean, as you can see, I've written all the books on SMSFs, and I've learned so much over the last 2 or 3 years. So we've got the course all ready to go. So that starts on the May the 9th, again, a 3-day course. You'll then be an accredited SMSF specialist. And that meets all the relevant criteria in the financial services training package for providing advice on SMSFs. And we'll be going through, if you're an accountant, you're not licensed, don't worry, you still need to do SMSFs, absolutely crucial, particularly if you're a tax agent as well. So there's some things coming up. If you need any area there, just contact Ben or Talitha at our office, and they can go through that advisor course either with you. We've got some really good deals if you want both the SMSF course and also the specialist. And if you've done the SMSF course, again, there's a good discount on the specialist SMSF advisor course. And you don't necessarily need to turn up for the 3 days. You can just turn up for 1 or 2 because everything will be recorded for you at that time. And again, just like our SMSF course, you're going to have access to all the documents. So this is, you've seen me talk about this before. This is our castle. And we've got our we've got our family trust, our discretionary trust, our bucket companies. We've got our properties, investment properties, shares, got super, and one of these ones quite often may well be a trading company or a trading trust. And we know that there's huge exposure for any of those entities. And I don't need to look much further than our own profession, the accounting and the financial planning industry. Even in the audit industry, I was having a chat with Mitch the other day, and we were just talking about auditors and the Baumgartner case, because he had one client new to him, and in the balance sheet, they put down that the client had invested in private company shares, when in fact it was crypto. And if you've gone back and saw Baumgartner case, in that one, there was investment in bonds or private company bonds, as put down as cash, and the trustee of SMSF was able to recover in full against the auditor. So again, we need to, exposures everywhere. So we really need to make sure that we put a moat around the castle, really protect those crown jewels. For example, if the commissioner comes in and you're operating through your accounting practice, you're a tax practitioners board comes in and cancels your license, or if you're a financial planner, ASIC just cancels your license, what do? Suddenly that pillar which is sitting outside essentially goes. So we've got to make sure that doesn't happen. This is the what I call the ideal business structure. There's a lot of little ins and outs on it, but the main thing is, you can see here, we've potentially got a house. We've got obviously lawyers here. We've got the estate, got investment properties, and then we've got our business trust. So that's our trading trust. It could be a trading company. We've got a trading trust and a bucket company there. Ideally, we change that all to leading member. But really the line down here, as I'm going to show you a little bit later on, is we have our SMSF with a trustee company. Primarily, we'd like to see that as a leading member, SMSF, and then our family protection trust with a bucket company underneath, depending on if there's flows of income. And you'll see, generally, if you're doing just a straight protector, there's not much income, but with the business protector, there will be income flowing through from here. So we've got our trustee company there, family protection trust. We've got a bucket company, and that may in fact be our new ASIC company as well. So we'll cover that throughout, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in our when we actually start to build it. So the next one, so why business assets at risk? Obviously, if they're sitting with a sole trader, partnership, trading companies and trusts, they're all vulnerable at any point in time. For those of you who've never had a subpoena served on you, it's not a pleasant experience. Once that happens, there's usually 2 to 3 or 4 or 5 years of litigation that may arise when dealing with regulatory authorities. particularly by the time you exhaust the court process, which isn't a bad thing, particularly if we're doing some transfers or gifts, etc., which are not at market value. Vulnerability, I'm just doing one at the moment in terms of divorce, can be absolute nightmare, but business litigation is crucial. Divorce, death, incapacity, and particularly on death, we've got family provisions claims. So if we're running a business, we're just going to make sure we've got a successor director. You know, we want to have a business that is almost a clean skin as it's going down the track with no liabilities. And the business protector helps the sale of that business in the event of the death. But it's also a great tool for breaking out, for example, breaking out franchises. If the business is really good, then we can multiply it quite easily, because the property is going to be in either a trust or particularly a service company, which can then obviously offer numerous licenses, and all that can be done under the platform. Just to give you an idea, when we go through the business protector, generally the recommended price on that is at least $7,700. And if you're going to license the business out further, then there's at least $5,000 or $6,000 every time you're licensed to the next person. So there's very good value there, but the huge upside in protecting your business is absolutely crucial. Your clients know that there's an issue. They've all faced it. And Australia's got one of the largest legal professions in the world per capita, so it's only going to get bigger and bigger. As we said before, with accountants, the trust rulings are creating havoc and anxiety. The Succession, ASIC Protection Estate Planning Advisors Association, of which I'm chairman, will be making a submission to the tax office on Section 100A. We'll be very strong on it. It'll be interesting to see how the other associations go. Hopefully, they also take a very strong line on the Commissioner's guidelines. I won't say too much about them at this point in time, but one of our fellow directors, certainly Tim Munro, is really aghast and has got a lot of press on it, which is fantastic that Tim's up in arms, and quite rightly so. But they're also creating, obviously, anxiety. So I've met with a couple of accountants that are saying, well, we've been doing this for years. What should we do? And again, this is an issue we need to play out with the tax office, get some really good representation by SPEPA and other associations, and get a deferral or get everything to start again, say from the 1st of July 2022, because currently they're backdating it to 2014. And in the Guardian case, where the Commissioner issued assessments under Section 100A, it goes to the trustees. So notwithstanding you've made distributions to adult children, brothers, sisters, parents, if they're caught up in this Section 100A issue, the Commissioner's broadly looked at, in that instance, obviously, that distribution that's been made to the individual, the child or the parent needs to be backed out. So they'll effectively get their tax back. But what happens is the tax is then levied to the trust, and then there's 50% penalties and interest on top of that. So it can be quite a huge, substantial payments going out. And of course, the client's going to want to get some recompense. But quite apart from that is, I think there's a lot of leeway going in, and that's why it's important to get in and fight hard. But we've got other people who are going to be better to fight hard. You've got to go in and start to protect yourself, which is crucial. In addition, the Commissioner has noted that he will refer tax agents who've been involved in these arrangements, which he calls under this reimbursement, which essentially is a tax avoidant arrangement, that he'll refer them to the Tax Practitioners Board for disciplinary action, potentially loss of agent's license. And also, this is the one that there's just a little segue there that they'll potentially be, council will potentially be caught by the promoter schemes if there's been a number of clients who've gone down that track. Now, in terms of promoters, it's for a company, it's 25,000 penalty units, which are currently worth $220. So that means if it's a company, it's a $5.5 million fine the Commissioner can levy on you. Now, if you don't want to get protection now, again, don't hide. Look, all that stuff's going to play out, but you've got to protect yourself right at this present point in time. So the solution is the business protector, as I said. I don't need to go into that much for you. I just want to go in and show you what it looks like, how it's done, so we can go through. But look, we're all aware of what we've got, our key assets, which include our goodwill, our client databases, our email databases are very effective. Good email database you can buy for like $100,000 if it's one that works really well. We've got business processes, marketing processes, our logos, branding, trademarks, obviously, a whole lot of other property, which essentially could be at risk, because once you get attacked, the whole thing gets locked down, which is tough, and you don't want that. You want to have a clean trading entity that really just trades, does what it's got to do, but all the core jewels or the key assets are sitting over in another entity, which is crucial. Much the same as a service trust, but it's a bit beefier. It's more like an asset protection trust in there, or we call it business protection trust. So what we're going to do is we want to go through the process, and I'll show you is the transfer of those assets from wherever they are at the moment, from, let's say, we'll call it in this instance, John Smith's trading company, over into a new trading entity, whether that's a family protection trust, which we're going to look at, or underneath that, whether it's a company that is owned by that family protection trust. The danger is, of course, if we've got assets and things like depreciable assets, etc., that are sitting in that family protection trust, that potentially could have litigation. So we just need to work out whether it's going to be that company or whether it's actually going to be a trust, but I'll talk through that one. Once they're over there, so we can transfer them over. So we're going to have a look at the CGT issues on that, stamp duty, and then what we're going to do is we're then going to license them back to the entity. So effectively, we've done a really good switch. We've done a complete restructure, but we've built it from an asset protection point of view. Again, there's no tax avoidance. We're not trying to avoid tax. We're building it for asset protection. In fact, here's the one thing is that when we had a look at the Guardian case, the commissioner failed, and this was on the 21st December 2021. If you haven't seen my videos on that, there's plenty around. But in the Guardian case, effectively, Mr. Springer had set up a whole structure and strategy to transition retirement. It had a number of very successful businesses. It was basically an agricultural scheme, selling trees and marketing and finance and all that sort of stuff. Decided to wind down those businesses, obviously with Commissioner knocking out deductions and management fees. As a consequence of that, he wanted to transition retirement, so he needed to set up a brand new entity from a succession and asset protection point of view. And because he did that, that held a lot of weight with the court, that the reason he went in for this was essentially to protect his assets and also an estate planning mechanism rather than going in for tax purposes. Again, when we have a look at this structure and strategy, there's no tax avoided. Essentially, it is a great base. So let's go and have a look. You can see the red line down there. That's the danger line. So anything sitting on this side is going to be attacked, and that's really important. So I've got the big skull and crossbones. We've got our trading company. We've got assets in there of $1 million. That includes goodwill, processes, trademarks, logos, etc. Client also owns a family home as well, which is pretty typical. They might have a number of investment properties as well. So we're going to have a look at doing two things here. The one I'm going to look at is taking the assets out of that trading company, and then we're going to put them into the Family Protection Trust or a leading member trust, or more importantly, if we want depending on the assets themselves, putting them in a holding company down below the Family Protection Trust, which is wholly owned. But at this stage, I'm just going to look at what it looks like in a Family Protection Trust. for that. Otherwise, we could, as I said, put it down here in a separate company. It's up to you to make that risk assessment. If you want to know a little bit more, or if you need a hand in doing a lot of this stuff, of course, you can always contact us at Abbott-Family and we can guide you through the process. A couple of exceptions. If part of the assets to be transferred include business property, then essentially what we want to do is put that into a self-managed superannuation fund, which has got some great asset protection and obviously estate planning in there. And that's also concessionally taxed. It's a great vehicle, concessionally taxed, not as flexible as the Family Protection Trust, but it's still a great vehicle. So we want to transfer our property from there over to there. And I'll talk about tax a little bit later on. Our assets, our goodwill, our licenses, our business process, marketing processes, we move over to the Family Protection Trust, or as I said, that special purpose company that will be owned solely by the FPT. At the same time, for all of the other assets there, then we're going to use an inordinate protector. So you're not going to do all at one. If it's for yourself, I would do the protector first, then the business protector. Same thing for the client. So look at all the assets there, work out the equity. If you haven't used a protector before, there's plenty of videos on it. Just do a search on our site, and then we transfer or gift over the not the equity, but the net wealth of the property over into a family protection trust is then lent back to our individuals. So it's a really good, strong structure. We had a look at it before. We've got our trading companies, this red line. So we want to go from the red line over here. And both of these are optimized for asset protection. Both of these are also optimized for estate planning. Both of these are also optimized for bloodline planning, so that the only beneficiaries are going to be bloodline entities or bloodline members of the leading member or the family protection appointeur. So we've got a really good, strong structuring over here, and we're going to leave all the disasters over here, or the potential disasters. Some of the things you've got to watch out for is that if we are going to transfer from one to another, then there will be, if there's no consideration paid, then essentially, because remember, we don't want to pay consideration because otherwise it gets locked over in the other entity. So that doesn't make sense. So what we're going to do is transfer the assets over. There'll be a deemed market value consideration between the relevant parties, and I'll talk about that very shortly. With the property, where you've got the transfer of the property, same sort of thing. We've got capital gains tax. Remember, if capital gains tax ends up being a big issue, we may end up gifting it over, much the same as that home equity or that net wealth in the home, we transfer over to the Family Protection Trust by way of a promissory note. So if it looks as though it's going to get a bit tough, please again feel free to contact us at Abbott-Family. We've done a number of these as well. One of the ones there is obviously if it's in our individual names, particularly if we have a look at the trading company, we're probably not necessarily just going to transfer we might transfer the assets over, we might transfer the shares over. So an easier way to do it might be to transfer the shares, but then you've still got all your tax agents' licenses and all of that sort of stuff. So there's still potentially a drama over there. So you can transfer the shares and then set up a new co with your tax agent's license and then operate out of that. But then you've still got all the rubbish and all that that's left in the old co. So it's preferable to set up maybe put it over the Family Protection Trust or in a new co, which is our services company, and transfer the assets there and license them back. Obviously we've got to look at bankruptcy laws in terms of that, particularly if we have a look at what the commissioner. So if we do it now, we've then got a 4-year rule. So it's best to have done it yesterday, because by the time all this drama comes out, 4 years is going to go really quickly. So I would suggest everyone who's an accountant needs to do this yesterday. Again, there's a whole lot of things that we can do: loan agreements, pay down license fees, etc. We need to set up a protection entity, but you'll find when the business protector, you can set up the Family Protection Trust inside there. So the protector includes the Family Protection Trust, includes the transfer of property, So it's not a business sale, it's transfer of property, and then there's an assignment of that property back to our original entity. Can be by way of a loan agreement. Then when we have a look at it, the small, if we have a look at there, small business concessions. Again, if it's a business asset, like business real property, then we can transfer that over to the Smsf, and that would be fantastic. So with the small business concession, I don't need to talk to you. You guys know inside and out. We're just going to make sure that our turnover for the business is less than $2 million. It's a pity they changed everything else to 10 million, and now just for these concessions, it's still $2 million. So certainly that's another submission we'll be making to SPEPA, to the government on that one. The main concessions, if you're over 55, it's held for 15 years, absolutely. So you want to do that straight away because there's going to be no CGT on that transfer of those assets over, which is pretty important. There's an additional, if you don't have the 15-year rule, and again, there's a limit on the 15-year rule. I think it's around about $1.7 million is the cap on that. But when we have a look at not for the cap on that, but that's if it was going into a superannuation fund. So apologies on that. I'm talking about the business property. But if it's been over 50, you're over 55, 15 years, it's tax-free. If you're under 55 or don't meet the 15-year rule, then there's an additional 50% concession on top of the original concession. But that depends on whether the assets are in a company or whether it's in a trust. Again, we can transfer the shares, but we've just got to worry about the asset protection. And of course, there's the CGT exempt amount, but that's only if it's rolled over into an SMSF if you're less than age 55. So that's potentially an issue there as well for you. If you're over 55, you can use that if it hasn't been held in 15 years. So some of those will help us with CGT. I haven't got time to go into stamp duties, but essentially just check on the transfer of assets or transfer over properties between businesses for stamp duty purposes in your jurisdiction. So it'll be fine. One of the things that we will go into though is because the Business Protector is a high-end strategy, as I said, 7,700, you should be charging for that as a minimum. It doesn't sit in our best practice. Our best practice is really more the doing trusts, doing companies, doing SMSFs if you're into, you can do loan agreements, lease agreements. So there's a whole range of documents there, but when you get to the strategic documents, the high value ones, which ordinarily, when you have a look at it, legal firms charge you a fortune for, we're offering it through the platform to you. So one of those is the Business Protector. The Protector is the same, wills and etc. Or you'll have to be a Strategist member. If you're not a Strategist member, or you can't afford the $7.95 because you're a small practice, just contact Ben at lightyeardocs.com.au, and he'll take you through all of the opportunities there as well. And again, you get you get access to us at Abbott-Family as well. So let's go out, let's just bounce out of there and go and have a look at what the system does for us, which is fairly important. So I'll just end this show and then we'll move on and have a look. So I've built it beforehand. Oh, there you go. There's our Family SMSF Advisor course. So make sure you come along May the 9th, 10th and 11th for that one. So let's go and have a look. So I built this earlier before. It only took me about 10 minutes. The main thing is to know the entities, where it's coming from and where it's going to. As I said, look, it may well be the company. I've chosen a family protection trust in this instance, but I'll go through and just show you, and then we can change it if we decide otherwise. And that's the beautiful thing about the system. Now, because I've done it before, it's going to come up in my documents. If you haven't seen this before, this is my LightYear Docs Abbott-Family test, and here's the Business Protector that was created today. So what I'm going to do is just show you how I do it. So I'm going to relaunch the document. It's quite good. You can actually copy the data and go and set up a brand new document or clone a new document if you want. So it's the ins and outs of this system. It's like was light years ahead of what our first version was. So it's been a great process. So we're just pulling in the business protector. I've gone through, there's a couple of tweaks that need to be done, but really it's good. And again, love to have your feedback here. So I've called it the Smith Business Protector. I've used the Abbott-Family logo. You can put your logo in there as well. There will be a default built in there. But again, it's just going to take a while to run a lot of this stuff out. We've got a common party here. So we've got a trading company. We've got the Smith Protection Trust. What I'm going to do is I'll build a new one. I'll just put in here a company. And I'm going to put in here services and property company. So this is, I'm not going to use that at this stage. I might use, I don't know, services and property company. And so this is going to be wholly owned. So I'd set this up as a standard company, wholly owned by the Family Protection Trust. So let's go down and have a look here. So I'm going to use 5 Smith Street. We've got here Street, and then we've got New South Wales. Okay, so I'll put in there and the directors. So I'm just going to use a sole director in this instance, and it's going to be John. Okay, so I'm going to save the data. Let's go back, confirm that, so that's easy. So I've got everything down. Okay, so general information. Would you like to add a family protection trustee? Absolutely, yes. So if I'm going to make it a services company, then I need to go and build that separately. I would do this first, get your family protection trust effectively executed first, get your ABN, TFN and your bank account, etc. I'll put that up first. I'm going to show you how to do that. Then we go through the transfer of property over and then the license back. So in that instance, we do family protection trust first, then we do our trading or services company. Alternatively, you'll see as we go through here today that we can build the into the family protection trust. So I've got it going out today. So the trust is going to be signed today in South Australia, so the rule against perpetuities doesn't apply. If you want to, I think we've got up on our system a fantastic article on not only having jurisdiction for South Australia where the rule against perpetuities doesn't apply, but also the ability to transfer, which is now been settled by the courts. So again, that means that it won't be wound up. If it is wound up and there's no beneficiaries, then I just put in, you can charity or charity of choice by the trustee. There's not a joint appointer. So the family protection parties, I'll just put myself down as the set law of this trust. It's for $10. The trustee is a company. And then we have a look at the trustee. So the trustee there is obviously the Trading Proprietary Limited. So we've used that as the trustee for that one. So I'm just going to confirm that one. Oh, sorry, that's the, so that's another common party. Oh no, it's the FPA. So the trustee is a company. In fact, I think I've got, let me just check with the common parties. I've got the trading company, Smith Family Protection Trust. Yep, so that's right, trustee company. So that's what it should be in the system, which is fantastic. So just going in, I've got the FPA parties. I've got the trustees a company, and then we put in the trustee details below. So I've got the trustee company. I can see there the trading. So I need to put in there the, oh no, it's the trustee is the company, which I said before. This is perfect. And then what we need to do is we then go from there. We then go to the family protection appointer. So who's the first FPA? That's John Smith. In the event of death incapacity, who's the second one? We've got Sally Smith. And then the third one, I've got Chris Smith, which is the son. And I'm not going to do a fourth one, so I'm going to go no. Beneficiary, do I need the spouse? Sally's the spouse, but because she's designated as a family protection appointer, I don't need to include her as a spouse. Is there any primary beneficiaries a company? No, not at this stage, or unincorporated association. So that's my family protection trust, which has been established. I've then got a transferee company. So when we have a look there, we've got the Smith Protection Trust trustee. So that goes in there. So that's the party. If I go there, you can see the Smith Family Protection Trust. We've got the trustee, etc., which is flowing down from there. So that's fine. In fact, I think it should be the trustee company is fine. So I'll come back and I just want to check something. I think I might have gone a bit wonky there a little bit. The transfer of the property. So I'm transferring goodwill. And in that, it could be the goodwill of accounting business at $800,000, 880. There we go. Trademark. Trademark. It's accounting value at $100,000, and then database 4,000 database value at 220. So you can see there it's actually, so when we're looking at the transfer, 880, 980, so it's $1.2 million that we've got in there. So do the assigned property and then the description. So that's the transfer over that we're doing. And then, so that's going over, and then what we're doing is now being licensed back. So the licensor is the trust, which is just Smith Family Protection Trust. Put in the details of the telephone and mobile, etc. The licensee is obviously going to be the trading company that we saw before. The agreement here, so the date of the agreement, so obviously you want to set up Family Protection Trust, then go through this process a day or two afterwards. You just use the state, the jurisdiction where that particular entity is running its business. It's only Adelaide where we put the Family Protection Trust. So trusts, it's only Adelaide or South Australia. So how long is the license going to be? Put 10, 15, 20 years. When does it commence? When does it finish? And if there's an option. So I've given it 10 plus another 10 years. And then the option has to be the 6th of the 1st, 2032. You can put any further conditions to the license if you want around that. And that's going to be particularly useful, not necessarily here, but if you go down the track and you've built all your assets in here and then you want a franchise, we've got a separate license agreement within the system. And then actually, I think we've got a separate license. And then obviously you can put in terms and conditions where it's demographic or where it's for. So the licensed property, you can see here we've got goodwill, database, marketing process, business processes, and they should marry up to when we did our transfer of the property. So I've got goodwill, trademark, database, and then we might put and business processes. Accounting at $150,000. Now you can jump on a Succession Plus and get the value of the business anyway, because essentially what we're doing is we're breaking it down into its various components. So we go back here. We've got all the property there. We've got our support services, which is the management of the licensed property. We've then got our fees. So there's an upfront payment of $250. So that would go from the trading company, which is the licensee, back to the licensor. You don't have to have an upfront payment. Here we're just simply making an upfront payment if we want to clear cash out of the one entity and put it into another. Again, it's a license fee, so it should be deductible and obviously taxable in the FPT or the company that we've got. Is there an ongoing fee for license granted and for support services? Yes. and I've just got there $12,000 quarterly, so that's fine. Are there any other fees? Yes, and we've got professional fees of $250 an hour. So when I go through there and have a look, then we come up and assemble. What I might do is we've got let me just go back and have a look. We've got the common parties, we've got the trading company, family protection trust, and services and property company. So what I'm going to do is just make a change. So we've got the Smith Family Protection Trust. Everything is there as well. So with the Family Protection Trust, we've got a corporate trustee. I've got it as a trading, which is incorrect because it is going to be a company trustee. Always remember it was a trustee company. I think that was 77. And we had 5 Smith Street, New South Wales. And then we've got here, we've got 2 directors, and I've got John Smith. And then I've also got Sally Smith as well. And just make sure when you go through that they are both obviously signing off. So we go through that, save the data, I'm going to confirm there. So I've got now a company, and that's the trustee company, wasn't the trading company, which is important. Family protection appointors, went through transferor. Now, the transferor is the company, which is the trading company. Now, this one, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to change it to the company. So when I have a look here, I'll have to delete that. So I'll just put that out there. So then I add the transferee, and for that one, it's going to be, remember, the services and property company, and that's going to be wholly owned by the Family Protection Trust. Remember, we've just built the Family Protection Trust, go and execute that, ABN, TFN, and then we get the bank. Now what we're going to do is set up a new co, wholly owned by, obviously, the Family Protection Trust. So it can, not only can it act as the services entity, it can also act as a bucket company. So the dividends can then be paid up there and then out to the rest of the family in line with Guardian as well. So I've just changed everything there. So that would now mean that the transferee is that. So this doesn't change. So it's all the same thing. All I've done is change the entity. The licensor, though, is going to be a company. Now it means I just have to get rid of that. I'm going to add the licensor, and I go down here and remember it's the Smith Services and Property Limited. I confirm there, and then licensee is obviously going to be the trading company. The agreement we haven't changed, so on and so forth. So if we then go down to the end, and then we're going to assemble, and let's have a look at what that looks like. Again, it's very exciting here, just being able to do everything. Just look how quickly that did. And that's some great value. Again, just do it for yourself. You look at those big ticket items, what are they valued at? Go on, work out what the valuation of your business is, and then chop it up into goodwill, marketing processes, so on and so forth, or we can just put it all in as goodwill. But I like it, to break it down into different elements, particularly if we're going to then go and franchise it out, which would make it like really spot on, which would be fantastic. So again, we've got a few documents in there. That's why it's generating. It takes a little while. So you can see here, it's back into my documents, but the business protector I just did, when I have a look at the logs there, you can see there every time I've actually gone in and done that and made quite significant changes. So let me go down and pull down the document there. I'm going to download as a PDF. If you want, you can obviously go over and get it reviewed by Abbott-Family. I'll just show you what you can do on that one. So we've got our business protector, which is fantastic. Again, you can see I put the logo in. We've got the Smith Family Protection Trust, which we've set up. I'm the settlor. Trustee company is the trustee, and the family protection appointee was John Smith. And again, we've got our level, first one, John, Sally, and then Chris. You'll see, if you haven't seen it before, when it comes around to beneficiaries, as I said, is the FPA, including named successor appointors. So I don't need to bring the spouse in because she's a future successor appointor, and then any lineal descendants, bloodline relatives, so on and so forth. So again, it's nice and one. So let's go down from there into, remember, this is the first document you're going to do. Then you'll set up, obviously, the company, which is going to be, remember, Services and Property Company. We'll just go on to our site and build that. But the shareholder there is obviously this Family Protection Trust. Directors can be, for example, just Sally or John, or essentially whatever you want to make sure there. We've got the details there of the FPAs. Now we go to Deed of Transfer of Property. And you can see here, it's between Trading Company and Services and Proprietary Limited. So when we go through that, we need to, again, just check with our capital gains tax. We need to check with our stamp duties, etc. But we're going over, and also the license back. We need to check whether that is a dutiable license. Does it need to be stamped, etc. Obviously, the Family Protection Trust, even though we've done it in South Australia, still needs to be stamped where the trustee is, which in this instance is going to be New South Wales. So there's a $500 duty. You can get that stamped through Avenum Optimum, again, up on the site. So here's the transfer agreement, subject to New South Wales law. Again, remember, it's only the trust in South Australia. We've got the transferor, the trading, and then we've got the services and the property, which is better. Remember, I had the original one going to family protection, but here, this is what's all being transferred, so it's fantastic. Now, we may not be paying anything for it, but that's the value that's going to be transferred over for CGT purposes. Then we have the license back. So we've got Service and Property, which actually owns all that property now, is then going to license. And this is the same as what you generally do for anyone else who wants that. So this is not a bad idea of anyone who's got some really good trademarks, IP, etc., in case they want to franchise it or utilise it overseas. So you can see there the term ends on, there's a 10-year term and a further 10-year option. We've got all the fees that are payable at the end of this agreement. I've got the terms in there as well. So it's a very robust license agreement. And then if we have a look at the back end, we've got all the relevant fees, the licensor, the licensee, what the assets are, initial payment. As I said before, you don't need to do that. So you can see I'll put $1 in. Obviously, I don't need to do that, so I'd have to go back and check. Quarterly fee, $12,000, and other fees, professional services. So that essentially is our business protector. The transfer over, very easy to do. There's a lot of working around the numbers, etc., which means there's a lot there for you. If you need any help, make sure you come through to us at Abbott-Family. But very exciting, do it yourself and then start going out and doing for clients. And remember, you're probably going to end up doing, if I have a look here, you're going to end up effectively probably doing this. So it's not going to be, you'll do it in tranches, do the business protector, then the protector for the houses. Anyway, it's Grant Abbott signing off. And again, hope to see you at some of the 3-day courses.